The elite family dinner started with insults, but it ended with a massive inheritance that stunned everyone in the room. We endured their relentless cruelty for years, waiting for the moment the truth would finally come out. This is the exact moment their arrogance dissolved into absolute, heart-pounding panic. The dramatic confrontation. My in-laws thought they could treat us like second-class citizens just because of our clothes. They spent the entire meal mocking our poverty, while flaunting their greed, right until the inheritance reveal stripped them of everything. You won't believe the look on their faces when the power dynamic shifted forever. It was supposed to be just another annual family dinner at the sprawling Hawthorne estate, the kind of place that looked like it had been plucked straight out of a luxury magazine and dropped into the rolling hills outside the city. Marble columns gleamed under crystal chandeliers that cost more than our entire apartment building. The long oak dining table could seat 20, but tonight it was just the 7 of us. My wife, Elena, and me, plus her parents, her brother, her sister, and the empty chair at the head of the table where grandmother Evelyn used to sit. We had driven up in our 10-year-old sedan, the one with the dent in the fender from that hailstorm last summer. Elena had ironed my only decent button-down shirt twice, and I'd polished her modest black heels until they shone like new. We knew the drill. For 8 long years of marriage, every gathering had been the same. Veiled insults dressed up as concern, pointed comments about our simple lifestyle, and the constant reminder that we would never measure up to the Hawthorne name. But this dinner felt different from the start. The air was thicker, heavier, like the whole mansion was holding its breath. Grandmother Evelyn had passed away 3 weeks earlier, and the family had been buzzing with barely concealed excitement about the will. They thought tonight would be the night the lawyer would finally hand over the keys to the kingdom. Little did they know the kingdom had other plans. We arrived right on time, as always, because being even 5 minutes late was another excuse for mockery. The butler, an older man named Hargrove who had worked for the family longer than I'd been alive, greeted us with the same polite nod he always gave, but his eyes lingered a second longer on Elena, almost like he was offering silent sympathy. Inside the grand dining hall, the table was already set with gold-rimmed plates and heavy silverware that probably weighed more than our monthly grocery bill. Richard Hawthorne, Elena's father, stood at the head, swirling a glass of 1982 Bordeaux like he was conducting an orchestra. Victoria, her mother, was draped in a designer gown that shimmered under the lights, her diamond necklace catching every flicker like tiny accusations. Alexander, the golden boy brother, lounged in a custom-tailored suit, scrolling through his phone with that perpetual smirk. And Isabella, the sister, was already halfway through a glass of champagne, her laugh sharp enough to cut glass. Elena squeezed my hand under the table as we took our seats at the far end, the poor relative's spot, of course. I could feel the familiar knot in my stomach tighten, but we had promised each other we would endure it one last time. For grandmother Evelyn's memory. The evening kicked off exactly as we expected. The first course, caviar and blini, was served, and Richard raised his glass immediately. To family, he boomed, his voice dripping with false warmth. And to those of us who actually know how to live like it. Victoria leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the table. Oh, darling, look at Elena and... what's his name again? Oh yes, Michael. Still wearing that same shirt from last year? How quaint. I suppose when you work at a community college, you don't exactly need a new wardrobe every season. Alexander snorted, nearly choking on his wine. Community college? More like charity case. Tell me, Mike, how's that teaching gig going? Still grading papers for pennies while the rest of us actually build empires. Isabella clapped her hands in mock delight. I have an idea. Since you two clearly can't afford to keep up, why don't we all chip in and buy you matching aprons for your new side hustle? Manual labor jobs are honest work, right? Landscaping, maybe? Or cleaning pools for people like us. The laughter that erupted was cruel and immediate. It echoed off the high ceilings like thunder. Richard pulled out a stack of small velvet boxes from under the table. Gifts for everyone except us. He handed one to Victoria first. A new pair of diamond earrings that sparkled like frozen stars. For the woman who keeps this family looking flawless, he said. Victoria gasped theatrically and kissed his cheek. Next came Alexander's gift. A limited edition Rolex that probably cost more than our car. For my son, the future of Hawthorne Enterprises. Isabella received a custom Hermes bag, and she squealed, twirling it around like a trophy. Then Richard turned to us, his smile sharpening into something vicious. And for Elena and Michael, well, I suppose the gift of our wisdom will have to do. Maybe use it to finally pay off those student loans you're still dragging around like dead weight. Victoria leaned in, her voice syrupy sweet. Honestly, dear, we've been saying it for years. You married beneath you, Elena. Look at you, second-hand dress, no jewelry worth mentioning. It's embarrassing for the family name. But don't worry. Once the will is read tonight, we'll make sure you get just enough to, I don't know, start over somewhere far away. Maybe a little apartment in the suburbs where you won't have to see us so often. The laughter swelled again, louder this time. Alexander slapped the table. Imagine them trying to host Christmas with their budget-friendly decorations. We'd die of second-hand shame. Elena's hand trembled in mine, but we stayed silent. We had learned long ago that fighting back only fueled the fire. I thought back to all the times they had done this. The holiday where they forgot to include us in the family photo. The time Victoria sent Elena a care package that was just expired canned goods with a note saying, "For when money is tight." The countless dinners where they bragged about their latest vacations while asking us if we'd ever left the state. We sat there, smiles frozen on our faces, letting the insults wash over us like acid rain. The weight of 8 years of this, 8 years of being the family punchline, pressed down on my chest. But we held our tongues, because we knew something they didn't. Grandmother Evelyn had confided in us during her final months. When the rest of them were too busy jet-setting to visit the private nursing home they dumped her in. Hey everyone, if this story of family cruelty is already making your blood boil, do me a favor right now, hit that like button and subscribe. There's so much more coming, and you won't want to miss the moment everything flips. The second course had just been cleared when the heavy double doors at the far end of the hall swung open with a dramatic creak. In walked Mr. Theodore Langford, the high-ranking legal executor of the Hawthorne estate. He was a tall, stern man in a charcoal suit, carrying a sealed silver briefcase that caught the chandelier light like a mirror. 2 assistants trailed behind him, one with a thick leather folder, the other with a small recording device. The room fell into a pleased hush. Richard's face lit up like he'd won the lottery. "Ah, Theodore. Right on schedule. I assume you're here to finalize the payouts? We've been waiting for this moment for weeks." Victoria smoothed her gown. "Finally. Mother always did love her little surprises. But I think we all know how this ends. The bulk of the estate to the children who actually cared for the family legacy." Alexander and Isabella exchanged smug glances, already mentally spending their shares on yachts and private jets. Mr. Langford didn't smile. He set the briefcase on the table with a soft thud that somehow sounded louder than it should have. "Everyone remain seated," he said, his voice calm but edged with authority. "I am here for the reading of a codicil to Evelyn Hawthorne's last will and testament. This document was executed and notarized just 24 hours before her passing. It supersedes all previous versions." The shift in the room was electric. Richard's eyebrows shot up. "A codicil? Mother was in hospice. She couldn't have—" "Silence, please," Langford cut in. He opened the briefcase and removed a thick envelope bearing the official seal. The late Mrs. Hawthorne was of sound mind, as verified by 2 independent physicians and myself. She insisted this be read in the presence of the entire family, exactly as it is written. My heart started pounding. Elena's grip on my hand tightened until her knuckles went white. We had known this moment might come, but hearing it announced like this made it real. The in-laws still looked confident, arrogant, even. They had no idea the ground was about to vanish beneath their designer shoes. Langford cleared his throat and began to read. "To my son Richard, daughter-in-law Victoria, grandson Alexander, and granddaughter Isabella, after careful consideration and review of documented evidence, including financial records, nursing home logs, and personal correspondence, I hereby disqualify each of you from any inheritance under this estate. Your pattern of elder neglect, financial exploitation, and emotional abandonment has been irrefutable. You visited me exactly 3 times in the last 4 years. You redirected funds meant for my care into your personal accounts. You mocked my declining health in group chats that were forwarded to me by loyal staff. Therefore, you receive nothing. Not 1 cent. Not one heirloom. The properties, investments, and liquid assets you assumed were yours are hereby revoked. You could have heard a pin drop. Richard's face went slack. Victoria's hand flew to her diamond necklace as if it might suddenly vanish. Alexander's phone clattered to the table. Isabella's champagne glass tipped over, spilling across the white tablecloth like blood. Langford continued, unflinching. To my beloved granddaughter Elena and her husband Michael. You two were the only ones who showed me true kindness. You visited weekly. You held my hand through the worst nights. You advocated for my care when no one else would. For that, I leave you the entirety of my estate, $278 million in liquid assets, the Hawthorne estate and all its properties, the investment portfolios, the art collection, the private jet, and every remaining holding. Effective immediately upon my passing. This transfer is irrevocable. The number hung in the air like a thunderclap. $278 million.
Elena gasped softly.
I felt the room tilt. The in-laws' smirks had completely evaporated. Richard's face turned a sickly shade of gray. Victoria's trembling hands clutched the edge of the table so hard her nails left marks in the wood. Alexander looked like he might vomit. Isabella's eyes were wide with sheer disbelief, tears already spilling down her perfectly contoured cheeks. Langford closed the folder with a snap. The documents are signed, witnessed, and filed. Bank transfers have already been initiated. The mansion you are currently sitting in now belongs to Elena and Michael Hawthorne. Any attempts to contest this will result in immediate legal action and further penalties as outlined in the codicil. The physical transformation was something I will never forget. Richard, the man who had belittled me for years, was visibly shaking. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Victoria's lips moved but no sound came out. Alexander's golden boy posture collapsed. He slumped forward like a puppet with cut strings. Isabella whispered, "This can't be real. This can't be happening." Over and over. If you're still with me and your heart is racing just like mine was in that moment, please, pause for a second, smash that like button, and subscribe. Stories like this don't come around every day, and there's one final twist you need to hear. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the marble floor. The sound seemed to echo forever. Elena rose beside me, her chin high for the first time in years at this table. I looked each of them in the eye, calm, steady, the way grandmother Evelyn had taught us. As the new owners of this property, I said, my voice quiet but clear, I'm going to have to ask you all to vacate immediately. The staff will help you gather your personal items. You have 30 minutes. Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Michael, son, we're family. Surely we can. Victoria cut in, her voice cracking. Elena, darling, please. We were only joking earlier. You know we love you. We'll make it right. Just give us something. Anything. We'll be out on the street. Alexander dropped to his knees, actually dropped. Right there on the expensive rug. Please, Mike. I'll work for you. I'll do anything. Don't do this. Isabella was sobbing openly now. We're sorry. We didn't mean any of it. Grandmother must have been confused. She was old. Their frantic pleas filled the room, overlapping in a desperate chorus of begging. The same people who had toasted their own superiority minutes earlier were now groveling, offering apologies that rang hollow after years of cruelty. Elena spoke for the first time all evening, her voice steady and strong. You had years to show kindness. You chose greed instead. Now it's our turn to choose. We watched in silence as Hargrove and the other staff, many of whom had quietly supported us over the years, escorted them out. Richard tried one last time at the door, reaching for Elena's arm, but she stepped back. The massive oak doors of the mansion closed behind them with a final, resounding thud. Outside, their luxury cars sat in the driveway, but the keys to the estate, the accounts, the future, those were ours now. Elena turned to me, tears of relief in her eyes. We embraced in the middle of the grand hall that was finally truly ours. The cruelty was over. The waiting had ended. Character had triumphed over greed, just as grandmother Evelyn had always believed it would. And as the sun set over the estate we now called home, I whispered to Elena, We made it. Hey friends, if this story of justice and sweet redemption gave you chills, do one last thing for me. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next incredible tale. There are so many more stories of underdogs rising up waiting for you. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay kind and never underestimate the quiet ones.